Hello fellow brawlers, or just everyone, I'm KairosTime, and it is time to brawl, but it's actually not time to brawl because this video has less to do with Brawl Stars and more to do with Supercell itself, but I'll throw some Brawl Stars gameplay in the background just to keep you guys entertained. Did anybody else watch this video right here? Yeah. For anyone who does not know, this YouTuber is Beat 'em Ups, and he is one of my favorite content creators to watch when it comes to Nintendo games. Okay, now I know what you guys are thinking, right? Yeah, it's shocking, but I do play games other than Brawl Stars. Sometimes. Okay, mostly not. It's usually just Brawl Stars, but still. Long story short, Beat 'em Ups was recently removed from the Nintendo Ambassador program despite having a large audience of almost 1 million subscribers, a deep passion for Nintendo games, and also having family-friendly content. Now, I'm not going to go into the issues that were specifically brought up because of this video, but this video did get me thinking a lot about game companies and how they interact with not only influencers or YouTubers. I don't really like the term influencers, but you guys get the idea. But also how they interact with their community and their players. And it specifically made me think about a lot of the things that Supercell does that I think that other game developers could learn from, whether for better or for worse. Which brings me to the topic of this video, and that is what it is really like to work with Supercell. This video is all about trying to answer that question for you guys from my perspective, and I'm going to give you an inside look at how Supercell interacts with creators, and I think it's actually a really good reflection on how much they care about the community in general. Now, before we can really get into the meat of this video and talk about specifics, I need to set a couple of ground rules first. First of all, I'm going to be 100% honest with my thoughts and feelings, whether they are positive or whether they are negative, right? My honesty is not for sale, and that's not going to change whether it's Supercell or no matter how much money any company is going to be willing to pay me. Now, obviously, there are some things that I cannot talk about because I do have an agreement with Supercell to not talk about certain things, right? Most of that has to do with me not being able to share certain information until Supercell lets me, like, you know, with updates, sneak peeks, and such like that. But it does not limit my ability to be honest with my thoughts and my feelings publicly at all. Like, never has Supercell ever discouraged me or any other YouTuber that I know of from being open and honest regarding our feedback, publicly or privately, even when it has been negative feedback. Second ground rule, you need to understand that these opinions are my own and they do not reflect anyone else's, including Supercell's, right? Like, I'm gonna be interpreting Supercell's intentions based off of their actions, but the opinions and the feelings, they are my own and nobody else, these aren't anyone else's words, right? Obviously, other creators might have very different opinions than I do. Okay, now I do have a really good feeling that this video is not going to do as well as my normal videos because, one, you know, people just are not going to be as interested in it as they are in Brawl Stars. They subscribe to me for Brawl Stars stuff. And two, people aren't going to watch it to the end, which is going to hurt the video. And those two things, they actually do negatively impact my channel. And I think that people specifically are not going to be as interested in it because I'm not bringing this video up in response to drama or anything negative that has happened between me and Supercell. Everybody knows that people like to watch drama. So why am I doing this video? First, as someone who is passionate about both YouTube and gaming, I want to be a force of positive change in both industries, and especially where those two industries meet together. The second reason why I'm doing this is while I think that sharing some negative experiences is a great way to change an industry, similar to like what Beat 'em Ups did, I also think that sharing positive experiences can provide examples of what does work for other companies. Third, I think that a lot of people who play Supercell games might actually be interested to know some of the things I'm going to be talking about in this video. I do have a lot of thoughts, so this video is going to be longer than normal, but I think that if you're still watching at this point, it is absolutely going to be worth it for you to watch to the end. The best company for creators. Supercell has recently made it their mission to be the best company to work with for creators. Now, I have worked with several companies for sponsorships and brand deals before, but the only company that I have extensive experience with is Supercell. And because I only have a lot of experience with one company, I really can't say whether or not they are actually the best company to work with. But the fact that they have made it their goal to be the best company to work with as a creator really kind of says a lot about them. It says that they're willing to try to improve. Now, obviously, a mission statement is completely useless unless it is actually followed through with action, and I'll let you decide throughout the rest of this video if Supercell has done that. Supercell Creator Program. Now, I need to go over a brief explanation of how the Supercell Creative Program works before I can actually talk about the specific topics. Anyone can go to creators.supercell.com and apply to work with Supercell. Now, when it comes to actual YouTube channels, and these numbers will vary depending on what kind of influencer or creator you are, but for YouTube channels, you need at least 5,000 subscribers in order for you to apply for the first tier. This information is public. You can go to that website to find this out. But getting into this first tier will give you access to a Discord server where you will be given exclusive tools and support. Now, an example that recently happened for this was the wrap-up challenge where creators could give viewers Brawl Stars merchandise prize boxes, depending on how well they did within this challenge. And that's just one public example that I can share. Now, once you reach 10,000 subscribers, assuming that you've shown Supercell that you can be trusted, you'll gain access to the second tier, which gives you early access to exclusive content and first looks at updates. Now, this gives tier 2 creators the ability to create content around updates before anyone else has seen it. This is not the same thing as like a developer build where you can actively play the new update or something like that. It's just where you see gameplay of it before other people have. If a creator reaches 50,000 or more subscribers and they've continued to show Supercell that they can be trusted, they gain access to the third tier. In tier 3, they're added to a creator Slack channel, which gives them access to even more exclusive content, including the developer build that can then be used to film early looks at updates. Now, this tier also includes in-game promotions like the ability to put our videos in the news tab in-game. It also includes the ability to utilize the creator code, and I'll talk a little bit more about these features later on. But as a general rule, the higher you go up in these tiers, the more opportunities you have and the more trust you have from Supercell as well as the more expectations that you have that you'll work within Supercell's requirements, like not to leak update information and also to create brand-friendly content and work within Supercell's terms of service. Honest and direct communication. Now, no matter where you are in the creator program, you have the opportunity to communicate with Supercell, and I think that's really awesome. Obviously, Supercell can't just have like a bunch of one-on-one conversations with every single creator, but I think that it is amazing that all creators within the community have a means of communication with Supercell. You know, obviously sometimes that's going to mean long time for them to communicate back, but they're actually really fantastic about that. Now, this allows smaller channels to build up a relationship with Supercell and show that they can actually be trusted with more sensitive perks, such as like the developer build. Now, since the creation of the creator program, I've always been in the third tier, so I can't really speak a ton for the lower tiers, but one thing that I have loved is how much Supercell has encouraged providing feedback. Not only with how they are interacting with creators, which is a very important thing, but also regarding their games. At least within the Brawl Stars scene, I know that Supercell is always considering feedback from the creators, and I want to tell you why I think this is important. Obviously, creators like myself are not game developers. I've played a ton of games, and I like to think that I have a good understanding of what makes a game good, but I am not educated in the field, and most of the creators that I know aren't either. We are not experts in game design, but we are more in tune with the dedicated community than anyone else, and I think that Supercell has recognized that. You see, it takes a really dedicated player to a game to not only just play the game actively, but also to actively participate in its community, and that includes the game's YouTube community. And let me tell you, nobody reads my comment section more than I do, and I think that that is true for most YouTubers. In fact, it's kind of funny because I often feel personally attacked when my comment section is filled with negative feedback regarding a feature coming to Brawl Stars that people don't like. Obviously, I know that you guys are not mad at me when it comes to something you don't like about Brawl Stars, but I do feel the force of your feedback as I'm reading through your comments, and that makes me do a lot of deep thinking about your feedback, which then leads to me sharing the feedback to Supercell in a constructive manner that they're most likely to listen to. Now, obviously, Supercell doesn't have to apply our feedback. After all, when it comes to game design, they actually are experts, but they hear our feedback, they read through it, they consider it, and I know that a lot of feedback does eventually lead to the actual game developers, and I think you would be surprised how much they apply feedback from the community to their games. As somebody who loves Supercell games, there are very few things more amazing than submitting some type of feedback from the community to Supercell and having that feedback implemented in game. Just one example was Brawl Stars lowering the price of token doublers due to the feedback that I gave them because of the feedback that you guys gave me. This is only one example that was made public, so I can actually talk about it, but a lot of this actually happens behind the scenes, and I think that most players would be surprised at how much Supercell cares about player feedback, especially when it's given in a constructive manner like this. I think that any game developer should consider this type of communication with trusted creators like Supercell does. Because like I said, nobody is more in tune with the dedicated community base than the people that create content for it. Early access. One of the biggest perks that Supercell gives content creators is early access to update information, including things like Brawl Talk or access to the developer build for us to create content around the update. I have really appreciated this because it allows me to make content and have it ready to go as soon as Supercell lets me. This way, there's not pressure to create content as quickly as possible and rush a video together that I'm not proud of and that's gonna look exactly like everybody else else's video. It allows us as creators to use our creativity to make unique content, and that helps hype things up so much better than if it's just released and everybody's racing to just rush something together. You guys know that whenever Brawl Stars releases a new brawler, I'm going to do an Olympics video, Lex is going to do a 1v1 video, OJ is going to do a cosplay, and Ray is going to do a star power glitch video. That type of variety means that there is lots of content around updates that people want to watch, and people do watch every single one of our videos, and that really hypes up the community. It's amazing for content creators because we get a boost in growth and views, and that helps us go against the YouTube algorithm, which is incredibly difficult to crack. And on the flip side, it's amazing for Supercell because it increases viewership for their game, which is free advertising, as well as gets more people excited for their upcoming update. Now, there are a couple of issues that I want to address. A lot of people think that Supercell creators are just like given a really big heads up when it comes to stuff like this. Like, we already know what's coming in the next update several days or even weeks or possibly even months in advance. Like, people think that when YouTubers like myself are speculating that we actually already know what's coming and we're just taking advantage of that in order to gain views. This is not the case, and if it were, that would just be straight up dishonesty. And I mean, I'm not gonna be doing that, right? If we know something, we're not allowed to talk about it until Supercell lets us, right? Typically, we don't even know until a few hours, maybe even a day or two before we have access, which I actually wish that we had more of a heads up because I'm not really a fan of rushing content. But with that said, Supercell has actually really improved their level of communication with us over the past couple of years, at least when it comes to Brawl Stars, and I have really appreciated that. Now, the biggest issue for Supercell or any game company when it comes to providing early access is that somebody's going to leak the information early, whether that's on purpose or even on accident. This is definitely a concern, and it will always be a concern for any game developer who's willing to give early access info to their creators. As a creator though, I think that doing something like this is absolutely invaluable, not only to make the creators more dedicated to the game company, or not the game company, but to creating content around the game, but also when it comes to the positive impact that it has on the community for a given game. It's also important for a company to give creators more information and more of a heads up if they are more trusted, because otherwise it'll lead to everyone making the same video, which is just not as effective. Individual people who leak information can be dealt with on an individual level, and it will take some time for any company to sort through those people, but once you have a group of dedicated and trustworthy people, it's magical. It's awesome. Revenue sharing. Now, if you've watched a video from anyone from Supercell Games, I would be very surprised if you haven't heard about creator codes, right? Shout out to code Kairos. K-A-I-R-O-S, code Kairos in the Brawl Stars shop. Shamelessly plugging my creator code because it helps me improve the quality of my videos. First up, I'm going to explain how the Supercell creator codes work, and then I'm going to explain why they are so important as a creator who has had more companies than I can remember try to pay me to create content for their games. Currently, you can go on to Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, and Brawl Stars and input a creator's code of your choice that you want to support. A Brawl Stars YouTuber doesn't even have to be creating content for a Clash Royale or Clash of Clans YouTuber for you to support them in those games. Just as long as you have a creator who does have a code, you can support them across Supercell games. Now, how it works varies between Supercell games, but in essence, the creator's code that you use will get a small cut of the revenue that you spend in game. It doesn't cost anything extra for the players, and we're talking about actual money that Supercell will pay the creator that you decide to support. We're not talking about gems or anything like that, like actual money. Nothing additional is required for the creator or anything like that as well. I think that this kind of goes without saying, but just in case anyone's curious, creators are still completely free to share their opinions just like normal. Nothing changes between the creator and Supercell except that Supercell starts to share revenue with them. Now, you might be wondering, why in the world would Supercell want to take a percentage of their earnings and then send it to their creators? Well, let me talk just a little bit about the digital marketing trifecta. This is advertising at its best. First up is owned media, which in the case of Supercell is their own news channels within their games, any of their websites, or any of their social media channels on Twitter or whatever, like what they decide to do on their actual channels. Second up is paid media, which includes advertising on TV, billboards, YouTube, and even paying an influencer to promote a product or a game. I don't know about you guys, but my favorite version of this is Supercell paying Liam Neeson to be in an advertisement for Clash of Clans during the 2015 Super Bowl. That is paid media at its finest, right? Now, the last part of the digital marketing trifecta, which is most important for this video, is earned media. This includes free advertising like word of mouth, reviews, and of course, YouTube creators who are making videos for a game that is not paying them to do so. You see, earned media is a big reason why games like Fortnite or Minecraft blew up in the first place. Creators realized that they could make a living making videos on a game that they enjoy through YouTube, and that results in free marketing and growth for that game. Obviously, Fortnite and Minecraft grew for other reasons as well, but social influencers who weren't being paid by Epic Games or Mojang to make videos for their games have had a massive impact on their growth. Now, the same is true for other games, and Supercell is absolutely not an exception. I think that Supercell knows that without earned media, they would not be where they are today. Now, obviously the earned media happens because Supercell makes great games, but Supercell cannot deny the positive impact that creators like Chief Pat, Galadon, OJ, Clash with Ash, Nick and Molt, and many others have had on their games. Here's the issue though. It's not only time consuming, but also expensive to create content full time. And YouTube is a very fluid platform where things completely out of your control can have a massive impact on how much income you can make on the platform. For example, a few years ago, YouTube made a small change in their algorithm that just so happened to have a big impact on how mobile gaming channels were shared. This led to creators like Chief Pat, Nick, and Molt going from over 1 million views per video down to 1/10 of what they previously used to. That's really scary for a creator. Another example is the COVID pandemic. Many companies have stopped advertising during the pandemic, which means that the cost of advertising has decreased, and many YouTube channels, including mine, are earning 30% to 50% of what they normally would. And as a full-time content creator who's already working 60 to 80 hours a week, on top of paying an editor to make my videos, shout out to Chicken, by the way, guys, he also makes Brawl Stars content. I also have a wife, and I've got 2 kids, and I obviously need to take care of them, right? And what is the best way to try and stabilize income in a field that is very up and down? Paid media. I'm talking about brand deals, right? Doing advertisements for a game that I wouldn't normally cover for some stability. Okay, now I'm not gonna promote anything that I don't think is worth promoting, and I do turn down deals for games and products that I don't like all the time. But taking a brand deal here or there is an amazing way to relieve some of the stress that comes from such a fluid profession. And if I can promote a product that I like and that I think that you guys will like and also make money doing that, that's a no-brainer. So what happens if another game company comes to me and offers something that's particularly juicy, like a yearly salary to create content for one of their games that I also happen to enjoy playing? And let's also say they're willing to double what I'm making off of YouTube if I cover their game and only their game. And let's also say that they are a reputable company with a big enough following that I would also be able to grow my channel on top of earning a salary off of their game. All of a sudden, leaving a Supercell game for another game sounds pretty appealing because of that stability that they're offering. That would relieve a lot of stress for me because YouTube revenue fluctuates so much. And the thing is, this is not a made up scenario. This actually happens. Obviously, creators have to do what they need to do in order to provide for themselves and their family. And this is where the creator code comes into place for creators who are creating content full time, because it helps provide a little bit more stability so that they can do what they love without the stress and worry of fluid income that comes from YouTube. I'm not talking about like crazy money or anything like that, just something to help keep things stable so that other companies don't come and buy out Supercell's most successful creators. But the creator code also has a really other important place for smaller channels. You see, the only reason why I was able to make a jump to full time on YouTube was because I had enough savings that I could live off of for 6 months if I really needed to. That gave me the cushion that I needed to create content full time, and that is when I learned how to create content that would actually grow my channel to the point where I could actually make a living off of it. Before that time, I was putting half effort into school and half effort into YouTube. And I was doing fine in both, but I certainly was not excelling in either. And if you want to grow a successful YouTube channel on YouTube, you have to excel, or it's not gonna happen. Now at that time, I knew that Brawl Stars was going global, so I had a really good opportunity, but I could only take that risk because of my own personal savings that I had built up for the previous 5 years. Not everybody is able to do that. And without the creator code, only a few creators like myself who happen to be in a good situation could actually make that jump to make the content full time. And that is a big issue if Supercell or any company wants to continue producing full-time content creators who can make the best earned media for their games. Now, do I think the creator code system is perfect? No, I absolutely do not. I think it is incredibly annoying that they make the codes expire every week so that we as creators have to remind everybody to go and use our codes. It's annoying for you guys, it's annoying for us, but it helps larger creators stay stable and it helps smaller channels grow to the point where they can go full-time. Plus, it helps produce an awesome KairosTime KairosTime jingle song, which I'm not going to sing again, but you know it. I think that that has been incredibly impactful for Supercell games, and I think that other gaming companies would be crazy not to consider doing something similar. In-game promotions. Now, I wanted to quickly talk about in-game promotions before I talk about something that I think Supercell could do to really improve their interactions with creators. If you go into Brawl Stars and you click on the news tab, you can click on videos to see some Brawl Stars videos from trusted Supercell creators. Tier 3 creators have an opportunity to put a video of theirs in this tab every so often. Now, this allows for players to find new creators to watch that they might not be aware of, and also helps the creators overcome some of the issues that come with the YouTube algorithm. I think that this feature is incredibly good for smaller creators who are trying to get their best content out there, and it's a great way for Supercell to help them grow and become more stable. I do think that this has some issues though. At least for Brawl Stars, I think that a lot of the content that people choose to put into the tab hasn't been the highest of quality, and that's led to many Brawl Stars players being disappointed with it, and that has led to fewer people actually watching the videos in the video tab, and ultimately that means that using the tab is pretty useless for more established creators because it doesn't bring very much growth to the channel, and it kind of just waters down the quality content that's being shared. I do think that Supercell should figure out some way to limit the types of videos that are put into this tab to ensure that only the high quality videos are shown to players, but I do think this is a really great step in the right direction, and any game developer should be trying to figure out how they can help their creators grow on YouTube, because once again, earned media is an incredibly powerful tool. Mentorship program. Now, this is one area that I think that Supercell is lacking a bit. They do have something in place, but I can't really go into the details of how it currently works for Supercell because I can only talk about what's public knowledge. But here's the deal. Learning how to grow on YouTube is incredibly difficult. It's not like you can just go to school and learn how to grow on YouTube and that there's like a very clear, easy, do this and grow on YouTube, right? The algorithm is always changing and the platform is saturated with people who want to make it big on YouTube, which makes it super difficult to know exactly what to do. And what's really confusing is that what works for larger channels doesn't always work for smaller channels. The only way to learn how to grow a channel is by either trial and error, or if somebody is willing to teach you how to grow a channel. In fact, there are entire YouTube channels dedicated to teaching others how to grow on YouTube. But the issue is that their content is generic and does not specifically cater to mobile gaming creators, specifically for Brawl Stars or Clash of Clans or Clash Royale. And what works in one niche will not necessarily work in another niche. Any company should want as many smaller channels to grow to be bigger channels that can produce as much earned media for them as possible. Supercell is no exception, obviously, but Supercell does have an advantage over several other companies. They already have a group of amazing creators who have already gone through all the growing pains of figuring out how to grow on YouTube, creators who already understand the tech, already know how to create entertaining content, and one of the best ways that they could help their smaller creators is to make it worth it for successful channel owners to help those smaller creators who are still trying to figure things out with some type of a mentorship program. Here's the deal, guys. I love YouTube and I love teaching others about YouTube, but I'm already working 60 to 80 hours a week to provide for my family, and at the end of the day, I just usually want to spend my time with my family, right? I mean, that's fair after 60 hours a week. I want to help smaller creators by sharing the things that I've learned with them. I want to be a mentor for smaller creators, and I wish that I had a dedicated mentor when I was still figuring things out, which I'm still figuring things out, but you guys get the idea. But I'm already spending so much time figuring out ways that I can provide for my family that it makes it impossible for me to just go out and do that. I think that some type of a mentorship program would go a long way for Supercell or any game developer. And here's one idea that I think that would work for anyone. The company would pay their most experienced creators to be able to be a mentor for several of the smaller creators. Those smaller creators could then have a one-on-one interaction with somebody more experienced than them who could then give them specific feedback catered to their channel to help them grow. Obviously, nobody would be forced into it, but those that would be opted in would then get paid by the company to help those smaller channels grow. Maybe even some type of small bonus structure could be set in place to encourage more engagement. Now, this might sound really strange, but it's actually really not that crazy of an idea when you compare it to companies who are willing to pay for their employees to get additional training so that they can then be better at their job, especially if it is specialized training. And the same goes for companies who hire trainers to help their employees to do specialized work. Creators are not employees, right? They're not paid media, they are earned media, unless you actually pay them to do your content and stuff like that. But you guys get the idea. The principles are the same here, and I think that doing something like this would be incredibly beneficial, not only for Supercell, but for any game developer. Because as experienced creators help those smaller channels grow, it's only just going to increase the number of daily viewers for their game, which is going to add more earned media, which is basically free advertising, which in a roundabout way wouldn't be free because you paid to have them be taught, but you guys get the idea. Okay, so we have talked about a lot of stuff, but let me get a little bit more direct when it comes to what it is I really like to work with Supercell. In my experience, it's fantastic. They've proven to me on multiple occasions that their #1 priority truly is creating the best games, and a big part of that is prioritizing their community, which includes their creators on a little bit more, I don't want to say intimate level, but like a close level, right? It makes sense for Supercell or any other company to want to have a good relationship with their creators, but for some reason, videos like this pop up every now and then, right? Unfortunately, companies like Nintendo make more mistakes than they should when it comes to not only how they interact with their creators, but their community in general. Now, I have not had a perfect run with Supercell. I've accidentally leaked stuff, like when I showed Emz's 2nd star power, even though their instructions to me clearly stated not to show Emz's 2nd star power. I was sleep deprived because of a new baby, but that was a massive screw up, right? I also screwed up maxing out my nephew's Brawl Stars account, which is clearly considered account sharing and is a blatant violation of Supercell terms of service. Was I doing it maliciously? No, of course not. I honestly didn't even think about it until after the video was released and someone mentioned it to me, but it was obviously a big mistake. I've made mistakes, but I'm trying my best to improve, and Supercell has recognized that. But Supercell has also made mistakes, and I recognize that they're just trying to do their best to improve as well. And when it comes down to it, I feel like that is the big thing that gaming companies just seem to be missing. It seems like they're not trying their best to try and build up their community and to build up their creators. I honestly feel incredibly privileged to be able to work with Supercell as closely as I've been able to over the past couple of years. They definitely haven't been perfect to work with, but I think that things are the best now that they ever have been. But they listen to feedback, they're open with communication, they are eager to support their creators and their community, and I love that. I think that any game developer should make it a goal to interact with their creators and their community in a way that makes them proud to work with them and to support them. I'm really curious to know what you guys think about this video, so let me know if this has piqued your interest at all, and I'm especially hopeful that I've somehow positively impacted someone out there that will work on improving the relationship between game developers and their creators and their community. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Use code Kairos in the Brawl Stars shop, and for now, this is KairosTime ticking by after this incredibly long video, and we will see you in Brawl Stars and just in Supercell games in general.